So these child labor violations have been soaring in the US. Yeah, crazy how that works. But efforts to render these solutions through legislation have received little bit of support. Here's some of the things that have been spreading across the country. This one bill would allow 14-year-olds to serve alcohol in Wisconsin. When can they drink? What kind of settings are they serving alcohol in? Are they sneaking some of it in a shot glass? Who cares? They're working. Also, Ohio Senate passes a bill that loosened child labor protections as well. And although it's like to become law because they control all areas of this legislation. Also, I mentioned Arkansas and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Arkansas governor signs a bill rolling back child labor protections, as we had already seen. That was earlier along in the year. So details of what's happening since all this has been going down. In the most recent fiscal year, the U.S. Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division reported 835 cases of child labor violations affecting 3,876 minors and 688 minors employed in violation of hazardous occupation. It's a 283% increase since 2015. Civil penalties against employers total just under 4.3 million. Is that where their problem came? Because employers that look to exploit children, maybe undocumented folks, and then use them for slave labor, maybe they wouldn't complain to their elected officials, their Republicans, and said, you know what, you guys, we need to exploit children. I need to go back to 1930 and make sure that we get back to the way things used to be. We're regressives, right? So at the state level, labor departments also saw sharp increases in labor violations last year. A record number of employers were cited for child labor violations in Washington and in New York. The state labor department reported a 68% increase in child labor violations just last year as well. This is the disgusting part, because of course, outside of just exploiting children, using them for cheap to little labor, and also extending them for certain hours that maybe other folks can't work, they're also endangering them, and then accidents happen. So several high-profile food service corporations have also faced some fines over child labor violations this year as well. McDonald's, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Sonic, Dunkin', Dave & Buster's, Subway, Arby's, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Popeyes, and Zaxby's, and other corporations like Tyson Foods and Purdue Farms, they're under federal investigation for their child labor violations. And by the way, people are dying. Children are dying. Many of these are farm accidents because they'll have kids work agriculture. And that's the main area where these things go down the most. My last quote on this before I let you jump in here, Viviana, is, and I read this as well, and this is what really stood out to me. And this isn't a graphic, but this is one of my favorite things that really gave the details of how this is affecting and how they want this to be because of some labor shortages. So legislators in Wisconsin, Ohio, and Iowa are actively considering relaxing more child labor laws to address their worker shortages, and which are driving up wages and contributing to inflation. They're driving up wages. If they're openly saying how this is driving up wages, so they need some child labor, that means they're looking to pay them less. So if you're this parent, and that's what Sarah Huckabee Sanders and all these Republicans are saying, is we're gonna give power back to the parents. If a mom wants her kid at 10 years old to work, they're gonna do it. Can a mom at their kid at 10 years old use their social security number to get ahead? Because look, if we're using humans for whatever they can help us out with, despite their autonomy over themselves or their future, who cares? It's just a parent looking out for themselves, because every parent, as we know, makes the best decisions for their children.
We have to remember that we are in a place of extreme capitalism in the United States, and these child labor laws affecting children who have been worked in the agricultural community have always been on the books. You've always been able to be a child of, I think, as young as 10, maybe even 8, working in the field. My grandmother used to be a field worker, and she would bring her kids to the field and they would help her, or they would just sit on the sides if they're young enough. So this has already been the case. We're in a real labor movement here in the United States right now. There's a lot of unionization going on. Companies are running scared. We need laws like this to do exactly what you said, Jayar, to exploit children, particularly undocumented children. It's happening even in Los Angeles. We had Texas busing out immigrant families and putting them in all of these cities, sanctuary cities across the US. Well, now these so-called sanctuary cities are going, ooh, we could actually put these guys in low-paying jobs and get that work that we need. Instead of figuring out this labor situation where people can get paid fairly, let's find ways to exploit it. And it's happening across the board. It's not just Sarah Huckabee Sanders and all the extreme conservatives. It's happening on the Democratic side as well. So we have to be really, really hawk-eyed in making sure we protect children here, because you'll have parents that say, I want them to work. We already went through this. Again, critical race theory. Let's go through history again and see what happens when parents are able to put their kids out of school and into work. What happens to society?
Knowing history and knowing how things work are one of those things that they want to ignore so that they can repeat it. That's the whole purpose. By the way, my pop's blue collar, hard hand labor guy. Installed carpets, build additions to rooms. He created landscapes for people's houses. He does this hard work. He's not doing it as he's retired. But I was 15, 16 years old helping him with some of these jobs. And the thing is what I wasn't doing was helping him at 11, 12 years old, driving the work van because that's illegal. But at 14 years old in Wisconsin, you can serve alcohol? Why? The law is they can't, but they'll just change it. So maybe in my state, wherever I worked with my pops, I can be 12 years old and they'd be like, yeah, so I'm a little tired after the workday, Jayar, you just drive home. Doesn't matter. Well, hopefully the legislators will flip this law. It's insane, and it puts other people as well as these children in danger. This is the pro-life party. Likes to talk about protecting kids, except from
not after they're born. It's just in utero. Just in utero. They can't work when they're in utero, but after they come out, put them to work.
They've been doing enough.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.